a true story as far as I know, but it is written by Patricia St. John, which I have told other stories by her. Whiter Than Snow was one. Seems like I have another one or two.
No Darkness at All.
Oh yeah, No Darkness at All. And I think I've told those in prayer meeting before. And they're very good stories. And so this one is no exception. And I had not ever told this one before. I've had it for quite a long time. And I kind of, when I was looking through the pictures, I thought, oh man, I don't know. But it's a good story, so. It was 11 o'clock on the first day of May. Lucy and her kindergarten friends were having a morning break. They sat under the tree in the school playground drinking their milk. Everything was perfect until Harvey spoke in a loud voice. Lucy, why do you live with your gran? Why don't you have a real mom and daddy like everyone else? Everyone looked at Lucy. Because I don't, she answered. Wipe your mouth, Harvey. You've got a milk mustache. Harvey was not giving up, but everyone has a mom and daddy. I mean, where are yours? Maybe they're dead, someone said. Or perhaps they're divorced, was another idea. Suddenly it was quiet. Lucy trembled inside, feeling tears just about to spill over. Then she breathed a sigh of relief. Teacher was coming, and the children stopped looking at Lucy to look at the teacher. But Harvey wasn't finished. Teacher, he called, why does Lucy live with her grandparents? Why hasn't she got a daddy? And the teacher's voice interrupted. If I had grandparents like Mr. and Mrs. Ferguson, I imagine I wouldn't care if I had parents or not. They're as good as both a father and a mother. You're a fortunate girl, Lucy. My grandparents died when I was a baby. Wipe your mouth, Harvey. You've got a milk mustache. Now everybody listen, because it's the 1st of May. We are going for a nature walk in the woods. Let's see how many different wildflowers we can find. The children whooped with joy, and Lucy was forgotten. 5-year-old Lucy loved the nature walk, but she did not forget the questions her classmates had asked. It was something she had thought about before, but Gran and Granddad never talked about it, so she kept the question inside her. She said to herself, I'm going to ask Gran today. Gran and Shadow, the big black Labrador dog, were at the bus stop when Lucy arrived. Shadow barked and wagged his tail, but Lucy ignored him. She took Gran's hand, then asked her question. Gran, why do I live with you and Granddad? Didn't I ever have a mom and daddy? All the other children have parents. She waited a while for Gran's answer. Finally it came. Lucy, your mother was our dear daughter. Her name was Alice. She died when you were a tiny baby. There was no one else to look after you, so Granddad and I took you as our own little girl. Lucy needed to know more. But didn't I have a daddy? Why didn't he look after me? Is he dead too? Again she waited for Gran's answer. He went away, and we never saw him again, she explained. He was not a good man, Lucy, and could not have looked after you. You belong to us now, and always will, just as though you are our own little girl. Look, there's Granddad waiting for us. The explanation satisfied Lucy for the moment. Over the next 5 years, she never mentioned it again. There were happy years, and during that time, Lucy became a brownie and then a member of the Girl Guides, which is Girl Scouts, something very similar to that. When Lucy was 11, she spent an exciting weekend at a guide camp in the Cotswolds. It was a beautiful place with woods and nearby farms with hayfields and daisies and buttercups and other wildflowers. There was even a river in which the girls could swim. Lucy slept in a tent with her friend Mary and looked at the stars through a slit in the top of the tent. She learned how to build a fire and learned even how to cook food over the campfire. Soon summer was over and Lucy was back in school again. One day her English teacher wrote, "Summer holiday," in large letters on the chalkboard. "What do you think of when I say summer holiday?" she asked. "Mary, how about you?" Mary was caught by surprise. Ice cream, she answered. "Yes, all right," the teacher said. "Someone else?" Swimming, the beach, camping in our motorhome. We toured Scotland in our car. The teacher was writing the answers on the green board as fast as she could. "Lucy," she said, "what did you do on your summer holiday?" Hearing the teacher's question, one of the other students started to snicker. Mary spoke up. Lucy never goes anywhere far away. Her grandparents can't take holidays. That will do, Mary, the teacher interrupted. Lucy went to the guides' camp. What was summer like in the Cotswolds, Lucy? The teacher inquired. Oh, Lucy began, the smell of honeysuckle and newly mown hay. Seeing the stars through a hole in the tent when we swam in the river. Kingfishers came out of a hole in the bank. Lucy went on and on. The bell rang, signaling that it was time for break, but the teacher had a closing word. I want each of you to write a story about your summer, she said, and there will be a prize for the best story. Just remember to put the feeling of summer into it. The class was dismissed. Soon the bus arrived and Lucy left for home. As she wandered home from the bus stop, she thought about what she would write. Usually when she stepped up on the porch, she called, "Gran, I'm home!" But today, she was thinking and did not call out. Lucy looked in the doorway and saw her grandparents standing with their backs toward her. They seemed to be in a serious discussion using hushed tones. "But Elsie," her grandfather was saying, "she will have to know soon. She is 12 years old, and after all, he is her father." "But not yet, not yet," her grandmother cried. "There are still 2 years to go. Anything could happen in 2 years. Lucy stepped back softly and darted along the side of the house. They must not know that she had heard. She wanted to run away and hide, but Shadow came bounding to meet her, barking exuberantly. They knew she was home, so there was nothing to do but go inside. She walked into the house just in time to see Gran slip an envelope into the desk drawer. Lucy helped prepare dinner, but for some reason, the mealtime was not the happy, chatty time it usually was. No one talked much. Lucy did not even tell them about the school's writing contest. After dinner, seeing that Gran did not need help with the dishes, Lucy went outside with Shadow. Lucy ran along the edge of the woods and threw herself down on the grass. Shadow rubbed his nose against her arm as if he knew something was troubling her. What was she to do? If she asked her grandparents about what she had heard, they probably wouldn't tell her. But I have to know, she thought. Then she had an idea that seemed so wrong that her heart beat faster. I could read that letter. She decided to stay awake until her grandparents were asleep. Then she would slip out of bed, go downstairs, find the letter, and read it. After all, I am 12 years old. I have a right to know, just as Granddad had said. Lucy knew perfectly well what Gran would think about people reading letters that did not belong to them. But in a way, she thought, it does belong to me because it is from my father. Evenings at home were usually times when they talked about what had happened during the day and what they planned to do tomorrow. Sometimes someone read from a book they all enjoyed. But this night, Lucy wanted none of that. Oh, I'm rather sleepy, she said. I think I'll go to bed early tonight. Gran looked at her strangely and asked if she was feeling well. After Lucy assured her grandmother that she was not ill, she went up to her bedroom. Gran wasn't convinced that all was well. Mark my words, Herbert, she said to Granddad, something is wrong with that girl. Before Lucy got into bed, she always said her prayers, but tonight there was a problem. Our Father, who art in heaven, she began. Then she came to the part, forgive us for our trespasses. How could she pray that if she was just about to trespass on Gran's private letter? She then tried, Jesus, tender shepherd, hear me. But that was no better, for it said, let my sins be all forgiven. So she gave up and crawled into bed. Gran checked on her several times before she went to bed, but each time Lucy pretended to be sound asleep. It seemed forever until she heard her grandparents go to their bedroom, and then still longer until she heard Gran snoring. Finally, she could sneak downstairs without their knowing. Quietly, she paused on each step, hoping it would not squeak. She reached the desk and softly slid open the drawer where the letter was hidden. She had to search a bit. Oh yes, there it was. Lucy glanced at the return address on the corner of the envelope. It read, The Royal Prison, Greening, England. Prison? Her father was in prison? She wondered. Lucy began to read the letter. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Ferguson, as the time of my imprisonment will soon be drawing to a close, I am writing you regarding the guardianship of my daughter Lucy. I am very grateful. She was so intent with reading that she never heard a sound, but suddenly she sensed another presence. Granddad was standing right beside her. And that's